Hello, welcome to my channel, Share It with Merit. I am Merit, and I'm going to talk a little bit more in this video about balance. I did that, talked in my last video about this so-called work-life balance. And in this video, I'm going to talk just about more about the general concept of balance and how we can attain more of it. It's often something that most people are searching for and striving for, again, especially in this very busy world and culture that we live in here in the United States. And two things that come to my mind when I think about balance, and it's boundaries and flexibility are the two key components, in my opinion, of how you can achieve more balance. Because as things start to feel out of balance, it tends to be that there's a boundary that maybe you're not setting and holding for yourself, or uh, maybe you're not being flexible enough to see through a situation where maybe you could be doing something other than you are doing. So a couple examples of that would be, well, boundaries are probably more straightforward, right? Are you doing things that are in line with your needs and wants, or are you doing things in line with other people's needs and wants, or what they need and want or expect of you, right? If you take a look, for example, at maybe your to-do list, your tasks, your calendar, what you're actually doing with your time on a day-to-day basis. And as you look at that, does that information, whether it's written down or in your head or wherever, does it reflect your values, your priorities, and what you want for your life, right? Our lives will happen to us if we don't define and design the life that we want and deserve to have, right? And if you want balance in that life, then you have to create that balance. You have to decide what balance is for you, and you then have to implement that, right? You have to stick to that. So it may look like turning down certain opportunities or invitations or such that well, I mean, we some of us want to do it all, right? FOMO, right? In the generation of FOMO, how do you start to say no to things when even when you really want to do all the things, right? It's not that you don't want to do them, but we're limited in energy and time and space, right? And so how do you start to pick and choose how you spend your time, with who you spend your time? And again, this goes whether you're at work or at home or wherever. The last video I talked more about the work-life difference and similarities, but this is more of just a general overall concept of striking more balance in our lives. Okay, and so the boundaries are key, right? Are you setting and holding to boundaries that respect and reflect the life that you want and deserve to have? Okay. And then the other concept is flexibility. And this is key. My overarching motto is flexibility is the key to mental health and acceptance is the door. So let's focus on flexibility, right? Psychological, mental flexibility, not yoga, right? Which is good too, but mental flexibility. So for example, when those curveballs come, right? And they can be positive or negative curveballs, right? And they can be of, deep intensity or not so much, right? Like, for example, I feel a little tickle in my throat, like, oh, am I getting sick, right? Oh, I don't know, I might be getting sick, right? And if I do get sick, how is that curveball going to affect my balance, right? Is it going to topple me? Am I going to hit the ground? Am I going to be flattened for a few days, weeks, whatever? Is it COVID? I don't, maybe it's just nothing. Maybe it'll be gone tomorrow. But the point is, life keeps coming at you, right? And the more that you can be flexible and bob and weave with what's coming at you and make, informed choices about what you're going to do with all of this information coming at you, right? Is this a distraction, right? You may have a curveball that's a really fun. Maybe you meet a new person and you're going out and you're falling in love and it's a really positive, wonderful curveball, but it's a distraction and it's still going to throw you out of balance. I know that's happened to me, and I'll get in this place where I'm really sort of in my routine. I'm working out and I'm working and I'm playing and I'm socializing. I've got this sort of routine going, and then there's a new person in my life, and now I want to spend more time with that person, right? Getting to know them and all of that and bonding, right? And so that's going to throw off that routine for a positive reason. But some of those values that I hold um, may just get lower on the priority list for a while, and that's okay. That's flexibility, right? If that happens, and instead of going to do yoga or hiking or something because I'm dating, well, then so be it, right? Those are two good things, right? And so I get to decide, you get to decide um, how how you want to go about that and how those priorities and values flush out at any given time, on any given day, in any given week, year, so on and so forth, right? And so balance isn't, I suppose, a necessarily steady state, right? We'd like it to be, but it's impossible. The only thing I can guarantee you is that tomorrow will be different than today, right? And I don't know how, but it will be different. And so how do we maintain that, sense of balance? And perhaps that's why we're often striving for it, is because you can't really maybe ever have it, you know, consistent for a long time, right? There's always going to be something to throw you off balance, right? And of course, if it's a bad thing, a hurtful thing, death of a loved one, a divorce, whatever, I mean, those will knock you down a lot further and a lot longer. And can you find any sort of flexibility and balance in that time, right? It's possible. And sometimes that gets to the acceptance piece where I said flexibility is the key to mental health and acceptance is the door. When, really tough stuff happens in our lives, acceptance is is sort of that final piece of the grief process. When we can get to a place of accepting what's happening or what's happened, we can start to deal with it better, and we can start to move back to that place of equilibrium and balance. So those are some ideas there on balance. So takeaways: holding and keeping to your boundaries on a consistent basis, being flexible with what comes at you. And I would add to that, remember, you can always change your mind. You can always uncommit to something, right? You can always look for other options. There's very few answers in life, but there's an infinite number of options. And the more flexible you can be, the more options you'll have. And then, as I just said, acceptance. I mean, that acceptance goes across every sort of realm of mental health. The more you can accept what is and not fight what is, the more peace and balance you're going to find. Okay. If you have any further questions for me, feel free to write them down in the comments, and you can also find me at shareitwithmerit.com.